Mungu twaomba uilinde Jumuiya Afrika Mashariki, tuwezeshe kuishi kwa amani, tutimize na malengo yetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Uzalendo pia mshikamano viwe msingi wa umoja wetu, na tulinde uhuru na amani, mila zetu na desturi zetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Viwandani na hata mashambani, tufanye kazi sote kwa makini, tujitoe kwa hali na mali, tuijenge jumuiya bora. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Mungu twaomba uilinde Jumuiya Afrika Mashariki, tuwezeshe kuishi kwa amani, tutimize na malengo yetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Uzalendo pia mshikamano viwe msingi wa umoja wetu, na tulinde uhuru na amani, mila zetu na desturi zetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Viwandani na hata mashambani, tufanye kazi sote kwa makini, tujitoe kwa hali na mali, tuijenge jumuiya bora. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Mungu twaomba uilinde Jumuiya Afrika Mashariki, tuwezeshe kuishi kwa amani, tutimize na malengo yetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu mshikamano viwe msingi wa umoja wetu, na tulinde uhuru na amani, mila zetu na desturi zetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Viwandani na hata mashambani, tufanye kazi sote kwa makini, tujitoe kwa hali na mali, tuijenge jumuiya bora. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Mungu twaomba uilinde jumuiya Afrika Mashariki, tuwezeshe kuishi kwa amani, tutimize na malengo yetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Uzalendo pia mshikamano viwe msingi wa umoja wetu, na tulinde uhuru na amani, mila zetu na desturi zetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Viwandani na hata mashambani, tufanye kazi sote kwa makini, tujitoe kwa hali na mali, tuijenge jumuiya bora. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Mungu twaomba uilinde jumuiya Afrika Mashariki, tuwezeshe kuishi kwa amani, tutimize na malengo yetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Uzalendo pia mshikamano viwe msingi wa umoja wetu, na tulinde uhuru na amani, mila zetu na desturi zetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, viwandani na hata mashambani. Tufanye kazi sote kwa makini, tujitoe kwa hali na mali, tuijenge jumuiya bora. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Mungu twaomba uilinde jumuiya Afrika Mashariki, tuwezeshe kuishi kwa amani, tutimize na malengo yetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Uzalendo pia mshikamano viwe msingi wa umoja wetu, na tulinde uhuru na amani, mila zetu na desturi zetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Viwandani na hata mashambani, tufanye kazi sote kwa makini, tujitoe kwa hali na mali, tuijenge jumuiya bora. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Mungu twaomba uilinde jumuiya Afrika Mashariki, tuwezeshe kuishi kwa amani, tutimize na malengo yetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Uzalendo pia mshikamano viwe msingi wa umoja wetu, na tulinde uhuru na amani, mila zetu na desturi zetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Viwandani na hata mashambani, tufanye kazi sote kwa makini, tujitoe kwa hali na mali, tuijenge jumuiya bora. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu Afrika Mashariki, tuwezeshe kuishi kwa amani, tutimize na malengo yetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Uzalendo pia mshikamano viwe msingi wa umoja wetu, na tulinde uhuru na amani, mila zetu na desturi zetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Viwandani na hata mashambani, tufanye kazi sote kwa makini, tujitoe kwa hali na mali, tuijenge jumuiya bora. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Mungu twaomba uilinde jumuiya Afrika Mashariki, tuwezeshe kuishi kwa amani, tutimize na malengo yetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Uzalendo pia mshikamano viwe msingi wa umoja wetu, na tulinde uhuru na amani, mila zetu na desturi zetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Viwandani na hata mashambani, tufanye kazi sote kwa makini, tujitoe kwa hali na mali, tuijenge jumuiya bora. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Mungu twaomba uilinde jumuiya Afrika Mashariki, tuwezeshe kuishi kwa amani, tutimize na malengo yetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. mshikamano viwe msingi wa umoja wetu, na tulinde uhuru na amani, mila zetu na desturi zetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Viwandani na hata mashambani, tufanye kazi sote kwa makini, tujitoe kwa hali na mali, tuijenge jumuiya bora. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Mungu twaomba uilinde jumuiya Afrika Mashariki, tuwezeshe kuishi kwa amani, tutimize na malengo yetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Uzalendo pia mshikamano viwe msingi wa umoja wetu, na tulinde uhuru na amani, mila zetu na desturi zetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Viwandani na hata mashambani, tufanye kazi sote kwa makini, tujitoe kwa hali na mali, tuijenge jumuiya bora. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Mungu twaomba uilinde jumuiya Afrika Mashariki, tuwezeshe kuishi kwa amani, tutimize na malengo yetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Uzalendo pia mshikamano viwe msingi wa umoja wetu, na tulinde uhuru na amani, mila zetu na desturi zetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Mungu twaomba uilinde jumuiya Afrika Mashariki, tuwezeshe kuishi kwa amani, tutimize na malengo yetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Uzalendo pia mshikamano viwe msingi wa umoja wetu, na tulinde uhuru na amani, mila zetu na desturi zetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Viwandani na hata mashambani, tufanye kazi sote kwa makini, tujitoe kwa hali na mali, tuijenge jumuiya bora. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Mungu twaomba uilinde jumuiya Afrika Mashariki, tuwezeshe kuishi kwa amani, tutimize na malengo yetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Uzalendo pia mshikamano viwe msingi wa umoja wetu, na tulinde uhuru na amani, mila zetu na desturi zetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Viwandani na hata mashambani, tufanye kazi sote kwa makini, tujitoe kwa hali na mali, tuijenge jumuiya bora. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Mungu twaomba uilinde jumuiya Afrika Mashariki, tuwezeshe kuishi kwa amani, tutimize na malengo yetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Uzalendo pia mshikamano viwe msingi wa umoja wetu, na tulinde uhuru na amani, mila zetu na desturi zetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Viwandani na hata mashambani, tufanye kazi sote kwa makini, tujitoe kwa hali na mali, tuijenge jumuiya bora. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Mungu twaomba uilinde jumuiya Afrika Mashariki, tuwezeshe kuishi kwa amani, tutimize na malengo yetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu.
Take back our seats. Let's take back our seats and go into the plenary. Conversations will continue in the plenary. Yes, thank you so much. Um, I would like to announce the presence of two MPs. We have Honorable Manuel Anonse from Rwanda Parliament and Honorable Gamarier from Rwanda Parliament. So thank you so much for making time to be with us. And we have ER MPs here who are leading this process because this bill is still a product of IARA. And the process we are in is really to give our views. Yesterday we started with a quick overview of the sexual and reproductive health rights situation in our EAC countries. And we went through why we need the bill, and we had a full presentation on the bill. So we had working groups that were formed since yesterday. They have been going through the bill, and I'm quite observing what is happening. It seems even if we added 5 more days, people would still be arguing and discussing. So it means that this is a bill that we need. But of course, because of time, let's try to listen to each other. We have a group that is composed of mainly civil society, another group that had stakeholders from government, but also professional associations. And we have faith leaders here. We have people from the church. So we have 3 groups that have been trying to go through the bill. And now this is the time to listen to each other. So we are going to give 15 minutes to each group. And they present what they agree, where they think are areas of concern, and what they want to see as changes. So because of time, I think it would be better we allow all the 3 groups to present, all the 3, the faith groups, the civil society, and the government and professional associations to present. And then we open up conversations. So when it comes to people who have questions, we'll be having, of course, the General Purpose Committee, IALA members to respond. But also we have Nicholas and myself who have also been part of these conversations, and we'll be able to respond to some of the questions. I call for mutual respect and understanding. Disagreeing is normal. The most important thing is that we're able to come up with ideas that we can give the General Purpose Committee as they go back to review the bill. And this process is not happening only in Rwanda. It is happening in the other 6 EAC states. So the views that will be collected will form the final version of the bill. And we'll also have more opportunities in the framework, which is public hearings, where it comes back to countries when it is final, and we still give country views. So the idea was really that we start building consensus, so that when we come to public hearings, we are not hearing the bill for the first time. I think if you go back and even find something that is very important, from your experience, you can still raise it, and we still have room to give our feedback. So we would be happy that we start with any group that is ready. 15 minutes maximum. If you use less, that's fine. If you have any question, please note it. And at the end of everyone presenting, we'll open up for questions, reflections, continuous debate. And ideally, I would wish to close this session when we're going for lunch, when we are done with everything. Because I can assure you, the conversations on the bill cannot end. Because we've been discussing about it, but IARA members said we are here to collect views. So all views are welcome. Feel free to express yourselves and start. Which group is ready to start? Who is ready to start? Faith? Okay, please. Technocrats. Are you using PowerPoint or PowerPoint? I think you need to set up where to present from. Is the virtual streaming on? Live streaming? Please inform people who are following online that we're expecting them to be part of the session as well. And people who are following online, we're going to go through these presentations. If you have questions as well, you can write in the chat box, and then we'll give you time also to ask your questions.
Good morning, everyone. We are presenting on behalf of the group that was combining the government institution, health professional organization. Yeah, our document is in a Google document, so we have been editing as we read through the bill. So we are going just to present where we have made some comments or some editing. So the person who is on the computer will try to let us know at which page we are, so that people who have computer on the front of them, they can know which page we are at, so they can follow up. Or you can use the number of the articles to know where we are. So on this article 3, where they stated that abortion, we just tried to revise or to add some comments on the definition of the abortion. They said abortion means the separation and expulsion by medical or surgical means of the content of the uterus of a pregnant woman before the human pregnant fetus has become capable of sustaining an independent life outside the uterus. So we suggest that instead of saying an independent, we say viability life outside of the uterus, because independent would mean many things. So for the female genital mutilation, we thought like this practice may not be widely spread in the country of Rwanda and Burundi. So we suggested a baseline survey to know what is happening around, because we thought the practice is different from what is happening in Kenya and South Sudan. Okay, can you go? Okay. This is a comment. The statement was access to permitted, safe, and effective abortion services. Go up a little bit. Yeah, go up. Okay. Our comment was that they should specify how long the pregnancy should be allowed to be aborted. We've suggested that at least abortion should take place when the egg has at least 8 weeks.
It would be good that you mentioned the article. How much is the comment on article this? We are suggesting this. You should be mentioning the article and
Yeah, it was Article 6. Yes, it was 6. Now we are arriving at Article 7. We are on point D. We put also a comment. The point D was the need to equip each individual with age. If we are going faster that you could not follow, you can let us know. They need to equip each individual with age-appropriate knowledge to experience their sexuality responsibly as part of their evolving human capacity, level of maturity, and overall development. So we put a comment that there is a need to revise the reproductive health curriculum in high school in Rwanda. We were just referring to Rwanda because the current curriculum does not allow those who go to train about health and reproductive health to do demonstrations about the usage of contraception, like using condoms. So we put that comment so that we revisit the curriculum and see if the change can happen. Yeah, the Article 9 was every adolescent or young person shall have access to safe, effective, non-judgmental, and acceptable age-appropriate sexual and reproductive health information, education, and services. We put a comment. We said, in compliance with the existing law, this article should specify the age of consent for services. Minors are not allowed health services when they are not accompanied by their parents, or the article should provide a room for a healthcare provider to provide a reproductive service to any consented minor according to his or her competence and clinical judgment. So the barrier we were seeing in this article is when the minor came to healthcare services, but they are not allowed for the services because they are not accompanied by their parents, while in some cases those people they don't want their parents to know what is happening. The next, where the sex and reproductive health services are not free, they shall be provided at a cost which is affordable to adolescents and young people. For this article, we were told that affordability is relative. some people can afford like those health services with small money, but there are those people who cannot even get the lowest cost you can imagine. So we are advocating that in public health institutions, these services should be free, but when they go into the public, the government, the partner states should incentivize these services so that everyone can afford it at a very low cost in public sectors as well. Here we are on page 12. For this statement, access to free, sufficient, and quality sanitary towels and menstrual health products for everyone, for every adolescent girl and young women. And we added this statement and promotion of access to reusable sanitary products. This was added because in some countries, the reusable products are not available. So we wish partner states should advocate for the availability of this product as well. There is point G. We replaced the word survivors by victims by a suggestion. Point 2, a healthcare provider or health professional providing sexual or reproductive health services shall, before providing the required services, replace the word explained by provide to the adolescent or young person a comprehensive counseling, including the nature, benefit, and consequences of the specific sexual or reproductive health services. We wanted that they will take time to provide counseling on which option to use, which consequences and benefit that the person will get after using that services. For point 3, every partner state shall develop and implement mechanisms to provide the vocational skills and career development and training for adolescents and girls. So for this point, we wanted the government to find, not only to train these people, but also to coach them on the business so that after training, we make sure that they will continue the business, because sometimes the training is not enough when you are not familiar with the business environment. So they need a kind of accompaniment to be starting that business, but not only accompaniment, but also coaching and startup capitals. Article 14, each partner state shall establish menstrual health space that are clean, safe, and dignified in all health facilities, schools, and other public, and we added also private health facilities. For the Article 16, a woman may terminate a pregnancy if, in the opinion of a health professional, but we were advocating that these services, because in the definition, they defined health professional as a medical practitioner. So we were advocating that this service should not be only provided by medical practitioner, but also those who used to attend to normal delivery, like midwives or any trained healthcare provider, can have this can be allowed to provide the services of abortion. That's what we were trying to add in this Article 17. And they were saying about abortion that it should happen when the pregnancy endangers the mental or physical health or life of the woman. In the case of sexual assault, rape, we added forced marriage and menace in that Article 16. For the point 3, we added 1 point, which was not in this Article 16. We copied it from the bottom. It was discussing about when someone is not refused to provide the post-abortion care, but we thought that even if someone refused, I mean the healthcare provider refused or denied to provide the abortion, should be the law should punish him or have some provision about that. So we said that a healthcare provider or health professional who does not or refuse or neglect to provide abortion care or treatment to a woman or an adolescent girl commits an offense and is liable on conviction to a fine not exceeding 10,000 United States dollars. So here we were providing a room for those who have religious or social belief that may not allow them to provide these services, that they can refer the woman to a colleague for the service. So I think that's all with us. The comment we made have been discussed in the above.
Anyone, thank you so much. Anyone from the same group who may have some additions, something that was forgotten, please go ahead. Maybe.
Yeah, I was going to add that we realized that the law did not cover some groups that are emerging or who have a lot of risks or vulnerabilities, like LGBTI, like people who use drugs, and we're like, we need those groups to be covered by the law. So we didn't see it in this bill, yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to ask on Section 15. One of your recommendation is abortion. And that 15 talks of termination of pregnancy. Why did you change the word from termination to abortion? Because they are totally different. And they create different interpretation and people react differently to those two terms. Oh, it's just an error. Thank you.
Group 1, you had what Mheshimiwa Fatuma is asking, whether did you use them interchangeably or you had a conversation? Why did you change termination of pregnancy to abortion? or you not discuss about it. It doesn't, it just happened because you use them interchangeably. Anyone wants to respond? Actually, we have a number of mics. Please let them, people can help to, so that we don't use one mic. We have a number of them. Make sure they are working and
Sorry.
so if I switch the question, if we maintain termination of pregnancy, group one, let me call it group one, is it okay? Because in the bill, the terminology used is termination of pregnancy. Huh? Is it termination of pregnancy or abortion? Both are used.
So I would say that on Article 16, what we did was to add some missing part. We felt that it's important that they are there. So on Clause 17, it talks about post-abortion care, and it highlights that whoever refuses to give services should get, a punishment or a fine. And we're like, why are we only focusing on post-abortion care? And we leave safe abortion while it's also a needed services like the others. So for the terminologies, we used it interchangeably. Maybe we can see the right wording, but on the addition on Article 16, that's what we wanted to highlight about the concierge objection, but also the need to make sure that whoever refuses to give the services is also convicted. He commits a crime and he deserves to be treated the same way as someone who has not provided post-abortion care services. Thank you.
Okay. Did you want to add anything, Nicholas?
I'm just concerned with the inclusion of the word provider in that particular provision, because you cannot train a provider. The definition of a provider is an institution. I think generally that is the common understanding. Then the individual is the professional. So I know the intention, as you explained, is that you want to expand the definition of a trained professional to include not just the medical officers, to include probably clinical officers, nurses, and all that. So I think the inclusion of provider took you outside the scope of a health professional. But your suggestion is clear. Put it forth for consideration by the General Purpose Committee.
Yeah, the argument was that in the definition, there's somewhere we mentioned that medical practitioner, and some people felt that we want to mean the doctor, and we wanted the term to be inclusive. Okay. Yeah, so maybe...
Yeah, certainly a nurse is a health professional. I think maybe we can look from the angle of, the idea should be expanding the definition of a health professional in the bill.
Yeah.
Okay. Can we go, I'm trying to be cautious not to open the conversation because I know the coming presentation is also may touch on some things. We will take note of whatever you think hasn't come out clearly, we can come back to that. Can we allow the next group to present? Thank you so much, Group 1. Who is next? Faith leaders or civil society? Okay, faith leaders. Please, if you have any questions, comments, note down. The next few minutes, we are going to open up the conversations.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. This presentation is on behalf of faith-based organizations. We are a group of pastors, bishops, and sheikhs. So after going through the bill, first of all, we thank the group of people who prepared this bill. It seems that it addresses a lot of problems found in this area, so we appreciate the work done. Thank you very much. As per this format, which was provided to the group to work on, you can see the column number 1 is about the section, also issues of concern, what are the issues found there. Then we have observations and recommendations. So the column number 1 is per part, because this bill is also divided into parts. But for the section, we are now going to section number 4. We found that people with disabilities were left. They were not considered in people of non-discrimination. So they are part of the East African population and are entitled to the human rights. So our recommendation is people of with disabilities should be included. 4. It's a clause number 4. Yeah. Then we go to clause number 6, subsection 2. I wonder if, I don't know if, because we didn't repeat the clause, but we mentioned only the article or clause. So in clause number 6, section 2, because we have clause, section, and subsection. So we talked about number 6, that is a clause, and section 2. This may contradict with the principles of FBOs. The regulations between FBOs and the member state provides a better understanding and principles of a better application. So we say that in recommendation, the provision should be in line with principles of FBOs. If you can look at the bill for number 6, section 2. Yes.
It says every partner state shall provide adequate, quality, accessible, and where they are not free, affordable, sexual and reproductive health services to facilitate the realization of the highest attainable standard of health by every person. Is that the provision you're referring to?
Yes. Is that number 2? Number 2, subsection. No, number 2 is a section.
Yes.
Section 2. Is that you are reading?
Yes.
Okay. So we are saying that the provision should be in line with principles of faith-based organizations. Because if we leave it like this, it's open and it's wider. It may include the things which may contradict with principles of FBOs. That's our concern. Yes. Maybe we'll have questions and we will be ready to respond.
If you could clarify just more information, just to ensure that everyone understands the concerns.
Okay, we were also members. If there is someone who can support, no problem. But generally, what we saw is that the provision doesn't consider that they are faith of people. So if we leave it opened like that, it may include some things which may contradict with principles of faith-based organizations.
I don't know if I'm reading the same point, but I'm looking at, I think it is page 8.
6. Yes.
Page 8, 6.2. It reads, I repeat, if that's what you're referring to. Every partner state shall provide adequate, quality, accessible, and where they are not free, affordable sexual and reproductive health services to facilitate the realization of the highest attainable standard of health by every person.
Health service. Okay, if in our group there is someone who can maybe clarify. Okay, yes.
Yeah, the reason why we've mentioned that is because the reason why we've mentioned that is because there are some health services that are not into the agreement with faith-based organizations, which we are going to see some details. So you will see some of them as we move on.
Like family planning.
Yes,
I'm
right,
trying
those
to-
ones. Yeah, abortion, family planning, and so on. So we will keep on seeing them. So that is why you have said they are, of course, some health services that are not in accordance with our faith-based organizations' beliefs. So you will see some of them. So we are going to give details as we move on.
Noted. Please go ahead. I
Okay.
think it's quite clear now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, then we go to 6.3M. We said that information provided in that clause doesn't consider the age differences of service beneficiaries. So it's open to all ages. Yet, some of service beneficiaries may not need those information before they attain certain age. So we are recommending that these services should be provided according to age and also culture. It should consider these differences. Then we go to 6.2N. FBO's principles were not considered in this provision. The provision of abortion service, because you know that FBOs do not support abortion, so we are somehow more sensitive to that abortion service and provision of that service. So what we can recommend, the provision of abortion services should consider FBO's principles, because also, you know, there is no agreement between some bills and laws between and the FBO's leaders. We are also going to section 3. The role of FBOs is not clearly defined in the application of this provision. I wonder if we can go through that clause, 9.3. This may contradict with the principles of FBOs. Someone can read for us that clause, 9.3.
Let me read for them. Okay, it says the mechanisms referred to in subsection 2 shall include the role of religious or community leaders and civil society in providing sexual and reproductive health information and services.
Yes, our role as religious leaders is not clear. What we are requested to do. So it should be clearly defined so that we can know our limitations, where we can start and where we can end. So the role is not clearly defined in the application of this provision. Therefore, we recommend that the provision of these services should not contradict with FBO's principles. If we are required to play some role, but we request that that role should not contradict with our principles as FBOs. Also, 9.6A. Yes.
We are talking about 9.2. If you have to read 9.2 and 3 together for you to make sense. Because 9.2 commands the council, and here the council is the council of ministers. They'll make directives, more like guidelines, on how services for adolescents shall be implemented or provided. And that section commands the council to include or to consult religious leaders and to include the role of religious leaders. I'm sure when the council will be making these rules, they'll go through a process like this one. You will be on the table to provide guidelines on how this particular Section 9 shall be implemented. I think that's what that section basically says.
Yes.
It says there will be a time for the council to get to you and to include the principles of their faith-based organizations.
I think we all agree on that, and that's why we recommend that while introducing that process, our principles should be respected, because we need to play a role, but which doesn't contradict with our principles. For 9.6a, according to the FBO's principle, any sex outside marriage is sin. Because the provision is that everyone is entitled to exercise sexual and sexuality independently. That's how the provision is. So we are saying that according to our principles as FBOs, any sex outside marriage is sin in our principles. So the Holy Scriptures, which is Bible and Quran, does not allow any sexual behavior outside marriage. So we are saying that this should be stated that the right for sex is to be reserved for only married people. That is our principle. Yeah. And we are sensitive on that. Yeah, sure. Okay.
Okay, we'll come back to that. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. For 9.6d, this may also contradict with the FBO's principles, because we don't support, because our support, we don't support all methods of contraceptives. Some of them we support, as it is clear here. However, FBO's principles prohibits the provision of contraceptive to adolescents and young people. We mean here people who are not married. So we will not facilitate even a distribution of contraceptive for non-married people according to our principles. The provision of contraceptives service should be provided in accordance with FBO's principles, limited to married people. We go to number 16, where we say that, where we saw in that clause that, can you please read for us that clause, because it's also very sensitive. I would like to read it through.
Okay,
Yes.
let me read. It says, a woman may terminate a pregnancy if, in the opinion of a health professional, there is a need for emergency treatment. The pregnancy endangers the mental or physical health or life of the woman in the case of sexual assault, rape, incest, or as may be permitted by the law of a partner state.
Thank you. We found that there are so many reasons to terminate the pregnancy. Some of reasons are accepted by religious principles and some are not. For instance, to explain, in case of rape, yes, the rape is a crime, is an offense, but for us as religious leaders, we say that if someone is raped, unfortunately, but we need also to preserve that life of that children. So in that situation, we are not allowing the termination of pregnancy. But for instance, if the pregnancy leads to the death of a mother, in that case, we allow the termination of pregnancy. So we found that this article includes so many things. That's why we needed to differentiate between what we allow and what we don't allow in that situation. So we say here, this strongly contradicts with FBO's principles. FBO's principles prohibits any termination of pregnancy which does not involve the death of mother. But if the danger involves the death of mother, in that way we may we are allowing the termination of pregnancy. Otherwise, we are not. Number 18, also the Holy Scripture, the Bible and the Quran does not allow couples to determine whether to have children or not, because the provision was that anyone has a right to determine where to have children, how to limit them, spacing, and so on. So we say that this may contradict the FBO's principles. Our argument is that the Holy Scriptures, Quran and Bible, does not allow couples to determine whether to have children or not. They are allowed to spacing between the children. This is allowed. This clause, our recommendation say that this clause should only be applied to the spacing children. That is what we are saying about the right to determine whether to have a child or not. Also, this should be applied to only married male and female. Can you read for us number 21?
Okay, 21. Okay. Every partner state shall regulate the use of assisted reproductive technologies to ensure that assisted reproductive services provided in the public and private sector are lawful, safe, and effective.
Yes, these assisted technologies should be only applied to a married male and female. We are now excluding people with the same sex, for instance, or adolescents who are not married, because we are allowing this to be applied to only a married male and female. Okay, we go to 22. We have seen about female genital mutilation as some of harmful practices. So for us, we recommend to add other cultural female modification, like what is in our culture, like labia elongation, because we recommend that it should be also added to female genital mutilation, to add also some other culture concerning the female modification, female genital modification, like labia elongation and other cultures found in different communities. This clause, we are recommending to add something, not to remove something.
It's not modification.
No, for us, we are recommending to add.
So the laws were saying that it was limited to genital mutilation, but they were suggesting to add modification as well. By elongating.
Mu Kinyarwanda, let me explain a bit. Mu Kinyarwanda, muri groupe yacu twasanze ibyo guca imyeyo nabyo byashyirwaho yuko bitemerwa. Yes. And they are also elsewhere. There is a culture of labia elongation. Okay. We found that elongation, yes. We found that this may encourage, for especially for adolescents, to involve in sexual works and practices. Yes. So we recommend that this should be also added to the harmful practices. If, yeah, it's a recommendation, it's our request. Yeah. Yes?
So it means prohibition of elongation.
Yes, sure. Yeah. Okay. For okay. Lastly. Okay. For clause number 28, section 4, subsection E. Please, can you read for us that section? 28 4E. And that is the last one.
28 4E.
4E, yes.
Okay. Addressing social, cultural, and religious limitations.
Okay, please, can you begin
Can
with...
I have your attention, please?
Can you begin with the beginning of 28 just as a title, so that we can understand where we are?
28.
Public awareness, things like that.
Okay. So it says, the community shall develop and implement appropriate common public awareness strategies sensitive to age, gender, religion, and culture, which shall be mainstreamed in the major languages.
Okay. Then read for us number 4.
4 and E. Okay.
Number 4.
Number 4?
Yes, number 4 first.
Number 4? Okay.
Then E.
Public awareness programs developed under this section shall include programs, and I'll go to E.
Yes, now we are going to look at the programs which will be made while making public awareness. Yes, number E.
Addressing social, cultural, and religious limitations on realization of sexual and reproductive health.
Okay, as religious leaders, we are saying that our principles are being called limitations to this process, which is not the case. We are not limitations. What we have our static principles, which sometimes may not even change. So this clause will hinder the religious rights. If our principles are called limitations, we are finding ourselves as something else. This clause should be adjusted to respect the principles of FPOs, because in that public awareness, our principles could not be called limitations. No, they are not limitations. We have our rights for our faith to be respected. Thank you very much, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much. Any additions from the same group? Or he has delivered the message as delegated. So keep your questions again. Please, I think some of these were coming back to them. I want to call the last group to present, and then we can open up the questions and feedback and, yeah.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I'm Aaron, and I represent the group of civil society organization. We worked also on this bill, and unfortunately, we were not able to exhaust all provisions because it was a kind of one CSO challenging another CSO. So understand the discussion was really tough, but if possible, we would need additional time to proofread this document so that we can submit a comprehensive document. So coming back to our work, we started from the title and the name of this bill. Because this bill, we are rating it as an upcoming newborn. But the issue was the name of it. We noted with regret that the word right was intentionally, arbitrarily removed. And this concern for us is, if the word right is removed, we are no longer working on the law. It is probably a guideline, a program, but if it is really a law, we need the word right to come back and include it. What does it mean? The word right provides basis for East Africans to claim the respect of rights that are in this provision. It also provides a basis to hold duty bearers accountable. Please, if possible, we recommend that the word right should be back in this law. Article 3 on female genital mutilation. Here also we had a debate and 2 recommendations came out clearly. My fellow colleagues recommended that, our group, there is a need to conduct a study in Rwanda and other countries where this practice is performed to see what are really consequences of this practice to women's health, to women's rights, so that we can also decide whether it constitutes a form or a harmful practice. That was one. But our group went also further and said that, if possible, this also should be discussed in this forum, whether we should add modification as a form of harmful practice. So we shall need your guidance on this and your thoughts. Can we move? Yes, labia elongation. And this topic is really famous here, so we need to take a position on it. Discrimination grounds. We have seen that there is a number of grounds of discrimination: ethnic, religion, and the other many. But our concern here, we realized that we didn't mention sexual orientation and the gender identity as a ground for discrimination. As civil society organizations, we see this bill as an opportunity to set standards at the East African community level. And if we can define these grounds as they are defined in our Constitution, we don't see any innovation. So we recommend that these grounds should be included to give opportunity to sexual minorities, including LGBT, to give them a basis to claim their rights, a basis to hold accountable for the implementation of this bill. At this opportunity where the East African community is reflecting on this document, we should not leave them behind in this conversation. Yes, move. On abortion, we had We had in the sentence, if someone would read for us, where it means they mentioned the removal of the content. So we had a concern in our group whether we should not clarify about what is being removed to make it clear. And again, we realized that the definition is somehow different from what Maputo Protocol provides. And if it would be possible or good to harmonize it with the Maputo Protocol and to make the definition more clear and comprehensive, especially for lawyers, because it will be somehow complicated to define abortion according to the Maputo, another definition with the East African bill, better to harmonize and make it consistent. Article 3, it talks about the universal health coverage to include essential health services. And again, this was unclear to our group. What is essential service? What is not essential service? If possible, in a definition of words in this bill, this needs also to be clarified. Non-discrimination. Again, here we have two concerns. First of all, in the list of grounds, we didn't see people with disability coming as a clear protective group on discrimination issues. The second, there is a prerogative where this bill is giving the possibility to consider other grounds that are included in our constitutions. I think it is good to have this, but it is also problematic. Why? Because we see this bill as an opportunity to set standards in East Africa. And when you start sending us back to our constitutions to see grounds that are there, we can ask ourselves the rationale of having this bill the time it is sending us back to the constitution. Better to remove the provision. And the country provisions will continue to be applied. So here we need this East African bill to reflect the philosophy of integration. It should state the standard so that it gives us what is the standard in Rwanda, what should be done in Kenya and other countries. Wherever we move within the region, we should have that impression that we are enjoying the same rights, we are having the same laws. I think that's the spirit of the integration. It goes together with the provision in relation to abortion, where it is also stipulated that the procedure and the grounds should somehow also consider the national laws. Again, this kind of delegation from the East African, which should set standards for all of these 6 countries. Here there is an opportunity not to send back the competence to national institutions, but rather to set standards so that we can have the impression that our laws are universal within this region. I shall come back to that again. We had also a concern on the evidence-based and cultural appropriate comprehensive sexuality education. The word culturally appropriate. And this word is really in some of these internationally recognized documents, but we see it as a room for abuse.
because you remember cultural norms constitute barriers for the implementation or the enjoyment of sexual and reproductive health rights. And having this here, probably there is two avenues we are suggesting. Either we remove the word cultural appropriate to ensure that the culture is not a barrier, or we define in our definition table what is culturally appropriate, so that for us who believe in human rights, we can be comfortable that no one used this clause to hinder the enjoyment of human rights. Access to permitted, safe, and effective abortion. This is the provision I was talking about. Permitted according to the country. Probably we need to know, do we have universal or similar laws within this community? If no, I think women in Rwanda who have advocated for a more friendly abortion environment will not be comfortable to travel to another state, partner state, where abortion is still restricted. So again, I am calling here the attention of our members of EALA to take their responsibility in relation to this provision. There is an opportunity here to set standards in East Africa. There is no need to send us back to our countries. If we need to consider laws in our respective countries, why are we here? Why are we talking about the SRHR bill? So I think there is also an opportunity to set standards so that women within the East Africa from each country should equally benefit from access to safe abortion. Article 6, information, prevention, detection, and management of sexual and gender-based violence. They suggested that the word service should be also included. Information on menstrual health, hygiene, and sanitation awareness. We noted that not all people afford those hygiene and sanitary pads. We suggested that it should be clear in this law that these commodities would be free. We see an opportunity for the progressive realization, because we have seen somewhere there is a room to show measures, to report, and I think countries progressively would implement this, but the ideal in the East African community would be to make it free. An adolescent girl or young woman who becomes pregnant before completing her education shall be given the opportunity with the appropriate facility within a reasonable period after delivery. Here we have two concerns. The first one, we think she should also be given the support, but also the reasonable time after delivery. We see this as a provision saying girls who are pregnant will first of all deliver, then come back to school. Is there a way to reformulate to ensure that those who are pregnant, they can still go to school? And within a reasonable time after giving birth, to let this for a woman to decide when she's comfortable to come back to school. Because reasonable time would be again relative, depending on the individual to another. Access to justice and the mechanism for reporting cases of sexual exploitation, sexual abuse, and violence. We thought that it would be good to add on the possibility to seek redress for sexual exploitation and abuses. Because, yes, they can report, but we need also that those women should be given the opportunity to seek redress as the minimum package or as the component of the package in case of these issues. So, as I said, we are not really, because of time and debate we had, to exhaust all topics. This is what we did so far. I think we requested more time, like 1 hour, to continue working on this if it is possible. But otherwise, I would invite my fellow colleagues to provide additional information if I missed something. Thank you very much.
Asante sana. So thank you, civil society group. Now we are going to open conversations. As I said earlier, disagreement is healthy, but I think I appreciate all the groups. I've seen there's some consensus already. There are a lot of issues that at least we agree. So I think on my behalf, I will thank Yara already that we are taking that step where we have a bill that people can discuss. But I want to open up. There are some issues that have been raised, and I want to allow members of parliament who want to respond or Nicholas to some of the issues that have been raised that need response. And also, it is time after you can ask questions and you can give further clarifications. I don't know if anyone wants to speak. Please. And you can take any question that you want or any area of concern that is emerging. And yeah.
Yeah, thank you, my brother moderator. Thank you, Chair, for accepting me to take this opportunity. I'm happy that today I'm with members of Parliament, National Parliament, because their inputs are so paramount. And we, as members from IARA, we are here to just collect views from our stakeholders so that we have a bill which is effective, which carries the views from the citizen that we represent at IARA. I am not really here to influence, no. I'm here to hear from you, to listen from you, and get your contribution so that we really pass a bill which is beneficial to our people that we represent. I am not going to respond to any question, no. But I'm here to raise my voice saying that we have the richness that we have to capture and that we have to safeguard. That is our East African values. Whatever we do as legislation, let's bear in mind that we capture those cultural values within our community. That's the heritage that we have. But again, we have also catch up the world as it evolves. We are here to assess together what are the shoulds, what are the should nots. This bill is very interesting. There was a phase where this committee in charge of general purpose, we went to Bujumbura, we gathered views, we were said, please you go and sit again. Because you have concerns, you have fears and whatever. We thereafter went to Nairobi. The scenario was the same. And when we were in the house, we were asked to go into the draft. So we are now touring all ESC countries so that we have this meeting, consultation, so that we gather views. Only to end, I want to remind you that this East African community is based on consensus. without consensus, I want to let you know that this bill will never and ever pass. Yes, we have to have consensus. I appreciate the intervention and the contribution from all stakeholders. We have heard from faith leaders, we have heard from technocrats, we have heard from civil society organizations. We need to intermarry all those views and come up with a consensus. This is not the end. Tomorrow will be a phase of public hearings after we've collected all views during this current phase. Maybe what I can contribute now is for you to go and make a comparative study between all these three presentations and see what are the burning issues, the common burning. Those burning issues will have to take our attention and try to come up with consensus. That is always my humble submission. I welcome you and do appreciate your presence and your commitment, because you have been really discussing with much seriousness. It shows how much we engaged and committed so that we come up with a bill which is genuine and which responds really to the needs and requirements of East Africa. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Chair. And I want to appreciate the groups who have presented. I think we need to appreciate their views. And we need to appreciate them because most of members who are in different groups, the CSOs, the government, the other technocrats, faith-based organizations, they are people who are working directly with the community. So they understand the challenge. They hear the challenge, they interact with the challenge. So we appreciate. I also want to acknowledge a point that Honorable Muhirwa has said. My fellow member who is in Yala with us, who just spoke, that East Africa Community and East Africa Legislative Assembly, their organs are based on consensus in terms of decision making. I think you can understand the merit and demerits of consensus. You should understand it. Sometimes you can lose on a very genuine issues or policy or legislation on mere consensus. You must appreciate that. And that's how the treaty was modeled. The other thing also, as members of Vienna, we need to appreciate is the concerns of the stakeholders here and see how creative we should incorporate in the bill without undermining consensus. It's within our mandate and obligation as members of East Africa Legislative Assembly to creatively look at the proposals we hear from stakeholders and bring it to the conformity of consensus and acceptability. We have the capacity to do that, and we should be willingly, as members of IALA, to do that. Because sometimes we might hide under the consensus and not support the process. I personally, I really like the proposals. And I think the Rwanda, I was in Kenya, the faith-based organization gave us a position, written position, and the faith-based group in the Rwanda gave us their position. And it's not very radical. It's a moderate positions. I want to appeal to CSOs, and I personally have worked with the National Commission on Human Rights. The ideals are there for rights. The ideals are there. But we also, those ideals must be contextualized without undermining the principles of universality and the principle of inalienable rights. But we need to contextualize within the happenings of our society. I totally like the civil society, and I think we need to expand discrimination to include a more higher standards. I agree. And incorporate it. The other issue I liked it, our culture, we must accept it. It's not all progressive. Honestly, it's not all progressive. Even you as an individual, at your own context, you sometimes feel that this is not acceptable. Values. Sometimes people use culture to control people. Sometimes culture is used to deny certain groups their rights. So let us balance it and look at cultures that are enhancing our rights and cultures that are denying our rights. And that's the premises we should work on. Our cultures are beautiful, but there are elements that are manipulated to control others. And the most disadvantaged group are the women and the girls. They are the ones. The custodian of culture and the promoters of culture are considered to be women. But the enforcers of culture and cultural values are the male groups. I don't know for Rwanda, honestly, but I will speak for my context. Mostly women, culture is used to control them and to deny them a lot of opportunities. And one thing I want to assure you, members, we are not promoting abortion as members of East Africa Legislative Assembly. We are looking at situation people's life is endangered. And I want to appeal to the faith group. We are not supporting abortion. We are not supporting termination of pregnancy for leisure. Just for leisure. We are not doing that. We have seen our society, our children, our youth are very active. They are more active than us when we were younger. And we must appreciate that because the dynamics have changed. Chair, I don't want to take much, but I like the part of looking at the cultural value norms that inhibit the reproductive health rights. The issue of including rights in the bill, it was contested. So also civil society and other groups, you must appreciate that we have to come to the middle ground for acceptable title. So I think you need to do that. I was a bit concerned that when they say the modification is one of the areas that is violating the rights of women. And I was asking myself that how does it affect health and reproductive rights? I just wanted to understand because it's not practiced. I don't know whether it's practiced, but I have not had it as a challenge. I had it as a preferred mode of body. I don't know. I have never prolonged mine, could be. Modify it, but I wanted to understand when we are legislating, we need to understand the negative implication, the health implication of that practice. If it is enabling and sustaining families, and it has no health implication, then we don't need to legislate it, isn't it? So I wanted to understand from the faith-based group modification of the rationale for that. How is it affected? I wanted to understand it so that also is a new thing for me. Could be it's new for you for female genital mutilation, The community I come from and majority of Kenyan communities, they practice female genital mutilation. Some of them are very severe. But I cannot explain it here. I'm not a medical expert. But it's a very severe that it affects even your reproduction. When you are in labor, when a woman is in labor, she cannot even deliver because the body has been interfered with. The organs have been interfered. So I just wanted to understand that. Thank you, Chair. I enjoyed the presentation. And thank you, groups.
Thank you, Chair, for granting me this opportunity, and the two honorable members who have spoken and affirmed the support for this bill and, of course, stated the consensus process of the East African community and the YALA. I also want to echo the views that those presentations were really detailed. I think you took your time seriously to go through the bill. The CSOs still have more work to do. It really tells that you've done a lot of work, and thank you very much for your input. I have a number of questions for the groups. I think I'm allowed to ask questions because I'll not be voting, but I want to help the the committee to get proper meaning of some of these things. For the professionals, there's I think it refers to section 6 of that bill where you talk about, I'm not sure if 6 actually defines abortion, but you talk about abortion to be limited to 18 weeks. The medical doctors in this house, I don't know whether that is informed by medical science, but if gestation goes beyond 8 weeks, that woman should not be permitted to procure abortion for whatever reason. So just clarify that medically if that makes medical sense. And then the same group stated under section 9 that we need to provide for age of consent. And I want to tell you, this is one of the most controversial issues as we discuss this bill. Age of consent comes up everywhere, and for some reason, this bill, I concede, does not provide age of consent. Did you have in mind any kind of determination on what age this child should be able to access without consent of the parents? Maybe if you didn't, it is something you need to reflect so that you recommend to this committee something that they'll take to the House as a recommendation. You brought it up, but you didn't go further to provide whether you want to suggest an age for that. Yeah, I like the issue of expanding the definition of health professional, but it also portends danger because this is a procedure that can result, if done poorly, can result to death. So again, I'll defer this to the medical doctors if there is a gynecologist in this house to explain whether a nurse professionally and ethically is allowed to conduct a surgery of this nature. So that I think in Kenya it's limited to medical practitioners. Under the guidelines, the ministry issued some guidelines. I'll need to refer to them again to just inform you properly on that. Same group, brilliant. Issues of termination, we need to include forced marriage and minors. Somehow if we interpret the rest of those sexual assault and what, it covers some of that suggestion. But this is a good one. I like the issue of referring to a colleague. Let me just quickly run to what I wanted to ask. Religious leaders, a very interesting group. And thank you very much for the exhaustive discussion you had. Under article or section 21, that provides on assisted reproductive technology, and religious leaders across the region have issues with that clause, and they think it hides homosexuality. They also think it goes against the order of nature. But here, your suggestion is that that should be limited to married couples only. Let me paint a scenario. If you looked at my presentation yesterday talking about infertility, one of the major implications of infertility in marriage is actually breakdown of that marriage. Where couples can't get children, they actually mostly break that marriage, and they face a lot of ridicule. Sometimes the woman is blamed, she walks away. Now, one of them walks out of this marriage and has a desire to get a child. Should that person be prohibited or be denied the opportunity to look for alternatives to get that child? If you limit it to marriage only, and marriages keep breaking because of lack of children, and shouldn't that person be able to access this service? And then for religious leaders, you talked about the whole thing is very beautiful because the provision, I'm not sure if I have it offhand, but talks about harmful practices to consider cultural, religious norms that limit the limitations. And you said the principles of FBOs have been, in this case, considered as limitations. Same case applies for cultural norms and other social norms. Some of them are enabling, some of them are not. So you cannot put a blanket that all of them are limitations. I want to give you an example under which religious teachings are actually a limitation to access to service. The religious groups that tell people not to go to hospital. Have you come across that in Rwanda? Somebody is told that it's a religious teaching not to go to hospital. Is that a limitation, or is that a principle of faith that should never change? Because what the gentleman said is sometimes these things are cast in stone, they don't change. So one is like that. So you have a woman who cannot access antenatal care, cannot go to the clinic, cannot take the children to hospital, just because the pastor has told the congregation that God that they worship will heal them at home. Yet God has given them the brain and has brought science to enable them access service. So some of those things, I think if you interpret that just on the face of it, you miss the intention. There is the mischief the provision is trying to address. It is not curtailing religion or culture or social norms. It's only saying to the extent that they're harmful, then they become limiting. Which one else? Yeah, Honorable Fatuma, I agree with you on the Labia Elongation. I checked on literature from UNFPA, from UN, that is contradicting. Some are considering it non-harmful and therefore should be allowed. And they're also saying if it is performed on children, then it is harmful because the children have not consented to it. If it is performed on an adult who has consented to it, then it is not harmful. So the balance between those two. So if you perform on children without the consent knowledge, they have no capacity to understand what they're doing to them, then that's harmful. But otherwise, the position on that from UNFPA is checked around, and a number of organizations that have, there's also a lot of research on it, by the way, from ResearchGate I was looking at here. It says, there's no firm position on whether it's harmful or not. Just consider that if you perform on children, it is harmful. Lastly, if you allow me, Chair again. I'm sorry, I picked a lot of things from your presentations. Sometimes when I'm inspired, I listen carefully, but sometimes not. Today, I think I listened to you more seriously. The last group was on CSOs, and I have two questions for you quickly. One is on 12, where you say that this girl who gets out of school should be returned to school within a reasonable. That's what the provision says. And you have a problem with the reasonable time. Do you have a suggested period within which that child, that girl should be able to go back to school? A limit so that it becomes, so if the institutions are held accountable if they don't return that child within that period. 2, a pregnancy of a child brings about a child, and therefore there will be 2 children. My observation on that, and I direct this to the committee, is that 12, as it is, does not have a provision to cater for the child who is born out of the pregnancy of a child. I don't know if I make sense. This young mother is a child. The product of that pregnancy is another child, 2 children. That provision focuses on the older child. It does not mention anywhere on the other child. And I want to inform the House and the committee that there is a practice and a policy or a program the government of Malawi is implementing that we can borrow from. They have child support programs for children who are born by these younger mothers. But then the problem also is that they only provide that support when the child turns 2 years, this younger baby, so that now the mother can go back to school. They have daycare programs for the younger child, the baby, so that the mother can go back to school. So it's something, and that group mentioned about support to be included in that provision. I think that support should extend to the baby of this younger mother. Otherwise, thank you very much, and sorry for taking a lot of time. My apologies for those things that I picked from those groups. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, moderator. My name is Dr. Mbonimana Gamariye. I'm Member of Parliament for Rwanda, Chamber of Deputies, and I'm also the chairperson of Rwanda Parliamentarian Network on Population and Development. I also thank MPs from EARA for having organized such kind of involvement, because I remember that they have done so many things about this bill. Myself, I attended the training online, kind of meeting online when they were introducing to us this bill, and it is quite very interesting. Well, here we had 3 groups presenting. There is a group of professionals and a group of faith-based organization and a group of civil societies. When you look at what they are presenting, or what they were suggesting, it's like we have 2 views, because I didn't see much difference between a group of professionals and a group of civil societies. They are completing each other. And this group of faith-based organization, well, it is also their rights. We appreciate them, what they are doing. It is, their rights to also tell us what they think. And I have been always saying that the law is dynamic. When we hear what they are saying, we consider them, and the role of the legislator is just to reconcile. Someone here said we shall find a middle ground. We shall understand each other and find the consensus, what people can agree on, which is very important. So we appreciate such kind of discussions. As far as Rwanda is concerned, I think we are ahead because when you look at what is in this East African bill, find that there are some points where Rwanda is much ahead, and while this bill is passed, I think it will be a good opportunity to incorporate some elements that can be also improved in some laws that maybe we shall pass in the future. And as far as also Rwanda Parliamentarian Network, the one I'm leading is concerned, there is a law that was passed by the Parliament in 2016, a law on reproductive health, and it is also under revision. I'm happy that I'm among the MPs from Rwanda who have initiated it so that it can be reviewed or revised, and we have already submitted the bill to the Bureau of Parliament, and some of the points discussed here have been also captured, and since it is under revision, the bill here will also inspire us, and if there are some points that have been forgotten can be also added, and also the views from health-based organization that we have learned here can also be helpful in incorporating them so that we can have a standard law that can live longer, and that can capture the views of different parts of the society. And we think this, what we are doing is very important, and we assure you that within a given time we shall have a consensus. As I told you, we are just here because we have learned that we are discussing about a very important thing, and we passed here. We have also other duties, and we shall be in touch with Ayala. There is a Honorable Francine. There is a director of HDI. We shall be in touch, and by time we shall know what we have agreed on, and any time we need our support, we shall always be available, and we shall be following what is happening and what will be concluded at the next level. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. My name is Bonnie. I was listening very keenly to the honorable members of Parliament from the Yara, and I was really, I liked the statements and was really inspired by how you are articulating things. But listening to you, I just developed some concerns which I need your clarification about, especially talking about the issue of consensus as could be a potential thing that can block advancing this bill, especially on certain articles. So I'm wondering the kind of weight that our ideas and suggestions we are putting forward will give in influencing and ensuring that the bill is able to fight off radical and old beliefs which are still an obstacle to enjoying full SRHR rights. And also reflecting on Honorable Member Mheshimiwa Muhiru, I think, yes, he said there's potential further evidence generation. I'm wondering how such consultations can really contribute to the bigger evidence generation process as part of, let's say, research which you talked about to ensure that culture, religion, and modernity are brought together to see that there is, as East Africans, we are coming from a place where rights have been really suffered in one way or another based on what I mentioned, but also advanced to reflect the current trends, especially for the young people. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I don't see any other hands up. I'll try to, okay, please go ahead.
Thank you. I wanted to clarify on the question that we asked to Group 1. He wanted clarification on point we made in our presentations. The first one was on the definition of abortion. In the bill, we saw that abortion, it was very limited because it was saying before the fetus, and medically this term, the fetal period begins at I think at the 9th week, so it was limited. So we wanted to put human pregnancy instead of putting fetus, and also we didn't want to keep this independent life because that will mean to up to 40 weeks, 37 weeks, but it changes across countries. But in Rwanda, we say abortion up to 22 weeks. Maybe it changes from country to country, but in Rwanda, abortion is limited to 22 weeks. So we wanted to change that. And also on age of consent, we saw in your presentation yesterday that our adolescents start having sexual intercourse at an early age. So we wanted that with evidence-based research that we can make sure that every adolescent who has started to have sexual intercourse can get services without the consent of the parents. Because sometimes those children doesn't want for their parents to accompany, to go with them. So if a child needs services, he should get those services. And finally, on expanding the definition of health professionals, I understand your concern, but if a nurse or a midwife is licensed or trained to do certain procedure, he should be able to do it. And limiting it to only doctors, we know that doctors don't get everywhere. There are some regions that there are few doctors. Most of the population is involved with nurses and midwives. So if they are licensed and trained, they should be able. Yeah, it's also costly to consult doctors every time, so I think it should be easier.
Boys and girls, there is also a lot of harassment that is being resulting to that unequal power between men and women, boys and girls, so that I would also suggesting to add the harassment, not missing that, not only considering the sexual exploitation and abuse, also you have to consider the sexual harassment. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's noted. So I just wanted to touch on a few things. One, let me start with the issue raised by the faith groups, but also from civil society on labia elongation. This is a prevalent practice in our region, in Rwanda, I guess Burundi also, some parts of southern Uganda, and it's done. There's literature that is very contradictory, whether it is harmful or not. We've started some conversations in Rwanda, of course, which is not easily picked up because most of us have gone through the experience or are enjoying the experience, and sometimes not easy to discuss, to have those conversations that can be personalized. But the main concern that is coming out is what Nicholas has said, the practice on children. Society making it, structuring it in a way that young girls as young as 9 have to undergo through the practice because they are not getting any other version of information. It is structured that if you want to have successful marriage, if you want to please your husband, you should do it before the first menses, first periods. We have radio programs, advertising, educating people, encouraging them to go through the practice. And we don't have any other packaged information against it, or at least telling them whether you do it, it's okay, whether you don't do it, it's okay. And I think I personally appreciate that faith leaders have raised it. Now, as a medic, we don't have anything that has been done to show you if it is harmful. But we think if you start allowing this young girl to touch her sexual organs, to be touched by other members of society, there is room for abuse. They can be abused. It can also encourage early sexual debut. Again, this is not scientifically proven, but when you start simulating yourself, I think you understand as human beings, all of us have gone through this experience at some point. It could encourage early sexual debut. But because no one talks about it, it is done by friends, it is done by other family members, it is done by peers. So it's not really, no one knows what is happening in that practice. And of course, considering the sensitivity of it, we think conversation should be started and at least give the benefit to a young adolescent to have accurate information. I still believe that if it is a practice that is only in Rwanda or some other parts of East Africa, people can, I believe that other people also enjoy in other countries. Then when you are an adult, you can make a decision whether you want to elongate or do. So that's the conversation we have started. And HDI is considering to do some research. We've actually commissioned the research on it, just to start bringing out some data on who is doing it, what is the incentive, how are they doing it, and then from there we'll start conversations on how maybe we can influence some, whether some policy to stop it on children, at least to ensure that children have access to accurate information. That's one thing I want to touch. The other thing is a question that was asked by Nicholas, and I think my colleague tried to answer it. Medical doctors doing abortion. In the Rwandan legislation, we have the same challenge. We've taken the case to the Supreme Court to decide. It's only being done by medical doctors. It's very clear. When parliamentarians were doing the penal code, they said abortion or termination of pregnancy can be done by a medical doctor. Now, when we look at the reality, nurses and midwives, most of the women, over 70% of the women deliver at a health center. And the main workforce at the health center, it's nurses and midwives. So the nurses and the midwives are delivering women. And as a doctor, I still believe delivering women is more complicated than termination of pregnancy, because you're saving two lives. Now, some colleagues have talked about surgery, but not all abortion is done by surgery. Actually, the first trimester abortions can be done just by pills. You administer the right dose and everything gets out. It's medical abortion. It only gets complicated when the pregnancy is much older, because there then you need to ensure that everything gets out. That may require some surgery. So we are having conversations, and WHO has very good recommendations that trained mid-level practitioners, such as nurses and midwives, can every carry out termination of pregnancy. And it's a convention. We still believe that limiting it to, when we were discussing with our parliament during that time, they thought a medical doctor actually can limit access. There was some level of decision making that if we allow it to go to nurses and midwives, then access is too much. But trained nurses and midwives can every carry out medical, because they deliver women. Because when you're delivering women, you're trying to save the life of a woman and the child. And we tell them if there are complications, transfer to the next level of care. So you can still transfer termination of pregnancy. It's the same thing, the same bleeding, everything. So we still believe that that conversation can continue. And trained, so if they expand the access, of course we won't expand it to lab technicians or whatever. We'll have, maybe we can define who do we mean by a medical practitioner. On the age of termination of pregnancy, this is based on viability. Now, if someone came to you and she's 8 months and she wants termination of pregnancy, I mean, you're going to have a baby born, unless if you murder the baby. So when we look at most countries, they have limited based on the age of viability. And when we took 22 weeks for Rwanda, because termination can be done only for 22 weeks. Of course, there is only one exception. At whatever age, if the continuation of pregnancy puts at threat the life of the mother, we don't look at the age of the pregnancy. But for all the other reasons, you have to be 22 weeks and below. And that is based on somewhere where a baby was born viable. I mean, the fetus was able to exist. So they said beyond 22 weeks, below 22 weeks, that's still okay. The earlier, the better. Then after 2 weeks, all those conditions, whether rape or forced marriage, we don't allow it. But some countries allow up to 27 weeks, 26 weeks. So there is still some kind of, on the issue, because I'm civil society, I'm going to do some advocacy here on the issue of contraception and religious faith readers. Of course, I know the MPs will have the final decision, the ERA MPs. If we look at the rates of pregnancies and unintended pregnancies, teen pregnancies, in all our countries, our region is the highest. You looked at the numbers. If we continue assuming that contraception should be only for the married couples, we are going to miss things. Young people have started being sexually active. I remember my own experience. I think I did my first kissing at the university. I mean, I'm being honest, yes. I was, I think, in my second year at the university to kiss, to go through that experience. I went through a single boys' school. I would see women and I was scared. Things have changed. Young girls are looking, young boys are looking at social media. They are watching videos. They are seeing things that we cannot control. And so, if we don't give them access to contraception, we're going to have unwanted pregnancies, which has a lot of school dropout, going to sex work. So we need, I'm just asking the faith leaders, we need to think and say, can we say that those who need, I still believe we should continue teaching the morality, spirituality, stop them from being sexually active if we can, but if that one needs contraception. I think when MPs are registering, they're registering for everyone, believers, non-believers. And the thing I like with this bill, as much as we have focused on married couples, this bill is looking at everyone, adolescents, elderly. So we can, as we are trying to buy consensus, we should also be considerate of what evidence is suggesting. It's the same thing I want to highlight for the termination of pregnancy. The only reason some countries have looked into this is if you deny a woman to have termination of pregnancy when she has decided she's going to die, it may eventually lead to death. When we look at unsafe abortion in all our countries, it is one of the leading causes of maternal mortality. So I want to agree with the religious leaders who say that if it is moving to death, unsafe abortion moves to death. She terminates pregnancy, she gets complications, infection, it may lead to infertility. So there are so many things. And when we look at data from our health institutions, it suggests that. And we need to think about how do we got the middle ground and allow some. So I don't want to spend much more time. I can see time is not on our side. I wanted to, because I think it is fair, there were some 2 comments that came from online, just for the purposes of people who are taking notes. Someone said, it was a question online, talks about age and culture appropriate CSE. However, he was saying article number 7, I think, talks about age and culture appropriate CSE. However, most of the schools, primary and secondary in the East African region, are religious-based and do not implement this. There should be a mandate that stipulates how religious-based schools have a responsibility to ensure the implementation of CSE. The second one was more also, the same article talks about how CSE shall include in-school and out-of-school programs. Currently, a lot of effort is being put in schools, while we continue to ignore the young people who are out of school, are at a higher risk of facing SRHR problem challenges, e.g. teenage pregnancy, GBV. As we continue to design curriculums to be implemented in schools, can we have a harmonized curriculum designed for out-of-school youth? I think this is a very big addition, that we should think CSE is, in our country, still focused on schools. We should think about how will this bill ensure that young people who are not necessarily in schools are also having access to services. So on that note, I want to thank you so much for allowing me to moderate this session. Thank you so much, Chair, for allowing me to moderate and to be with you. We are happy that we have had these consultations and we will continue conversations as civil society, as faith leaders. We have this bill and we can continue inputting so that by the time it comes to public hearings, we already have contributed, but also we have shared with others. We have a responsibility to share with others, with other constituencies, with the organizations we come from, other institutions. Certainly there are people who in SRHR work in respective countries who need to see the bill and input. So I want to thank you so much for making the 2 days. I want to thank so much all the partners who are here for making this possible. I won't go through the list, but we have a number of partners that have put in resources, that have put in input. I want to thank them so much for making this happen. I want to thank so much Yara. I've said it before. I like the way you engage stakeholders. I think if we had other institutions engage other stakeholders in a friendly way, our region is going to go very far. I have always felt like, at some point I've always felt I'm getting close to becoming a member because they are very friendly. I think you've seen it. Let's engage Yala. It is there to help us legislate. And as civil society, as faith leaders, as government, of course, always engages in that. Let's keep seeing how we can have a friendly, enabling environment. I believe that an adolescent in Burundi has the same environment, needs the same thing as an adolescent in South Sudan. And as this type of framework allows us to take a step further to ensuring that our community stays healthy. Chair, thank you so much, and I want to request you to do your final remarks as well as close for us this two-day consultation.
Thank you so much, moderator, for a good job well done. Today's session is very important for us as members of General Purpose Committee from EARA because without this interaction, in the kind of interaction we have, we can't legislate because whatever we do, it has now to convene to what the society and the community is really needing, and especially on the ground. I really want to thank government institutions because you are here to support, because you are the decision making at high level. And when we are with you, we are ensuring that whatever we do is now emerging to the highest level of what our governments are now intending to do for our population. Secondly, I would like to thank civil society organizations. Thank you so much for your contribution. And I really know how you are close to the citizens. I know because I have been in that kind of job, and I know how we are engaging with the population. And I know how your voice is now coming from them to what we need as a legislator at the regional level. So thank you so much. And what I can say is that is not the end of the discussion. You are saying that you have not ended your discussion. You can continue. You have the room to continue, then to get all views you want, then you go back to us, so that at the time we will be now discussing what we have from the partner state. We will be able now to consider all matters as it has been raised from the ground of our citizens and community. And I would like also to thank leaders, faith-based organization, because all of us, I think, we are supported by you in one or another way. And your views are really contributing to what we need to do at the regional level, because if we are not supporting, I'm sure it will not pass. I'm sure it will not pass, because at the end, we will need our highest level of the head of state. They are also believers, and they will be considering what is coming from their constituency. You can imagine, without you, I'm sure we will not be able to make a consensus, because from you to the high level of the decision making, we are together with you. So thank you so much for your positive way of thinking. I'm saying the positive way because at least at your level, you are able to show that at that point we are agree. At that one we do not agree, but we can make it in another way. You have the suggestion to give. That is a positive way we need from you so that we can have something which is progressive in a way that we can have a bill, a law, which is reflecting your belief and our belief. Thank you so much for your contribution. I'm saying this is not the end because we'll come back again for the public hearing sessions. We need to have the same group. We don't need to have, and we don't wish to have another group, because now with you we are at another level of understanding, and we are now improving. If during the public hearing we have another group, it will be like a starting point again. So please, when we will be inviting you for the public hearing, kindly be available so that we can progressively be moving toward the final stage of our bill. Kindly be available at that time. And I think it will be next year, because in our wish, we need to have this bill at whatever level will be as a consensus before the end of our term, so that the next term will not be again starting, because when it is another group, it is a new idea. So we need now to build this and end it before the end of our tenure, which is next year. Lastly, what I need now is to thank you and say the room is still open. If we have some suggestions, you can pass either by me, because I'm here every time. You can pass through Dr. Kagaba, because we are always together. And I can give you my email address, so that whatever you want, you can put it there, so that I can also give to the rapporteur of the group when we will be in Arusha. So let's end by here. And I wanted to promise you that what we have given here will be discussed. I don't want to ensure you that all your views will be taken in consideration, because we have to confront them with what is coming from other partner states. So I don't really commit myself and in the group I'm leading here that all your views will be appearing in the last version. We have to compare, and we have to scrutinize, comparing to what is coming from other partner states, and also comparing to the constitutions of our partner states. Why am I saying that? It is because whatever we can do, which will be contradicting our constitutions, will not be able to pass. So you have to understand what does it mean. When, for example, in another partner state, the constitution is not allowing, let's say, abortion, in any circumstance, let's say, we have to see which should be the middle ground, so that we can have a clause which is reflecting what is said in that constitution of that partner state. So let's be constructive, let's be positive, let's build the consensus, and during the public hearing, we will have now something which will inform our last version, and I'm sure we need to have something to end and have a bill on sexual and reproductive health for the regional level. Thank you so much. I wish you to return well in your respective place. And I wish a good return to my fellow members, because we are now leading to Nairobi tomorrow, because you have another bill, a draft of the pharmaceutical bill, which is also under legislation. So tomorrow it will be another session for us to see how we can engage with stakeholders on that matter. So I thank you very much, and we will be always in touch to see if you can get something which will convene for all of us. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Francine. Now, the last request is to request you to come forward and we take a group photo. We need to remember you as participants to this national consultation. The team that is working on that, please ensure the place is.
yetu sote tulilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Uzalendo pia mshikamano viwe msingi wa umoja wetu, na tulinde uhuru na amani, mila zetu na desturi zetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Viwandani na hata mashambani, tufanye kazi sote kwa makini, tujitoe kwa hali na mali, tuijenge jumuiya bora. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Mungu twaomba uilinde jumuiya Afrika Mashariki, tuwezeshe kuishi kwa amani, tutimize na malengo yetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Uzalendo pia mshikamano viwe msingi wa umoja wetu, na tulinde uhuru na amani, mila zetu na umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Viwandani na hata mashambani, tufanye kazi sote kwa makini, tujitoe kwa hali na mali, tuijenge jumuiya bora. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Mungu twaomba uilinde jumuiya Afrika Mashariki, tuwezeshe kuishi kwa amani, tutimize na malengo yetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Uzalendo pia mshikamano viwe msingi wa umoja wetu, na tulinde uhuru na amani, mila zetu na desturi zetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Viwandani na hata mashambani, tufanye kazi sote kwa makini, tujitoe kwa hali na mali, tuijenge jumuiya bora. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Mungu twaomba uilinde jumuiya Afrika Mashariki, tuwezeshe kuishi kwa amani, tutimize na malengo yetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Uzalendo pia mshikamano viwe msingi wa umoja wetu, na tulinde uhuru na amani, mila zetu na desturi zetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Viwandani na hata mashambani, tufanye kazi sote kwa makini, tujitoe kwa hali na mali, tuijenge jumuiya bora.